What's good, Commanders fans? So the schedule has been released. If you looked at the Commanders Twitter page, they did a no cake introduction video for the schedule release. So that's what they did this year. I can't even remember what they did last year, but I just watched it. So I have no opinion on it. I couldn't care less, honestly. It is what it is. So I guess shout out to the social media team for that. Now, I do like that we do have a couple primetime games. I actually have turned around and kind of like primetime games because we've actually done a little bit better. We beat the Eagles when they were undefeated on Monday Night Football. We beat Russell Wilson on Monday Night Football. One thing I will give Ron Rivera a little bit of credit for is that, it's a different era, so it doesn't really matter. But we have recently, as of late, done a little bit better on Monday Night Football. Last year was kind of iffy, but the year before we beat the Bears on Thursday Night Football on the road. So we've done a little bit better on prime time than what we have done in the past. I'll just say that. Last year we didn't have many primetime games, but this year we have two, which is cool. I think that's good enough. Cincinnati at Cincinnati, Monday Night Football. I think that's a random Monday Night Football. I'd rather it be like an NFC East battle on Monday Night Football if we're up to me. But it is what it is on that. And then we play at Philly on Thursday Night Football, November 14th. Once again, we have a late bye. Week 14 all the way in December. Not going to make any excuses, but a late bye is definitely not an advantage for us. It is tougher on the players' bodies for sure. And then week 18, we play at Dallas, which is the third time in a row we've done that. We played against an NFC East team in the last game of the season for like the last 15, 20 years or something like that. Something ridiculous. I think since like 20, I can't remember. But it's been a very long time that we played an NFC East team for the last game of the season. So it could be, if it's a competitive game, we'll see. It could be a la 2012 game against Dallas where it's a win and you can get in and win the NFC East or something like that. Who knows? It could be something like that. Who knows? But Tampa at 4:25. I just like to talk about the times and the channels too. I do like to talk about that as well with the schedule because that is important. Whether it's a 1 p.m. or 4 o'clock game. Sometimes I like the 4 o'clock games, because you get to do things, you get to go to church just to get stuff done on Sundays, grocery shop, and then you get to come home and watch the game. Whereas 1 o'clock is like, yeah, you just kind of got to stay home, honestly, and be ready for the game. But the first game at Tampa, what else? I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the travel time. We have like the least amount of road travel time. That's like an interesting stat that came out. Let me see if I can find the tweet. Commanders to travel fewer miles than every other team. 9 home games plus at Baltimore. Only one road trip west of the Mississippi will do that. So that is one thing to look at. You look at the quarterbacks we play against. We play against Dak twice, Jalen Hurts twice, Jalen Jones twice, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, or Justin Fields, possibly Baker Mayfield and Will Levis. So, the quarterbacks on our schedule are pretty tough, except for maybe like Will Levis and Bryce Young. But Bryce Young is a rookie. He's a sophomore, so you'll see if he makes a leap. Will Levis, we'll see if he makes a leap. Baker Mayfield is he had a good year last year, so I can't even sleep. I can't fake on Baker. But I'm not going to do win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to analyze the games, look at the matchups, the times, different things like that, revenge games, different things like that, how the matchups look. That's what I'm going to do game by game. I'm not going to do win-loss, win-loss because it's a recalibration type of season. I don't have a 10-win expectation, 11-win, 12-win, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm just definitely not near that for me. I know the win-loss total for betting sites is 7.5, and I think that's pretty accurate. But you look at the preseason games, New York Jets, Miami, New England, it's kind of like who cares, but it's preseason. So, we'll see how that shakes out too. But week 1 at Tampa, 4:25, September 8th. That game is going to be a challenging game. Tampa Bay, they made the playoffs last year. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White. They have a talented team. Baker Mayfield had a good year last year. Cade Otton's a solid tight end. Tristan Wirfs is a good left tackle. Defensively, they have Vita Vea, Levante David, a linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the game. Antoine Whitfield's a good safety. So they got a good team for sure. They do have a new head coach this year, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But yeah, they're a playoff team. They're a playoff team. So, and they have a good team. So seeing Emmanuel Forbes go because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Ben St-Juste against those guys, it's going to be a tough task. This is a tough task for the whole league against those guys. So our corners will be tested. Mike Samry still, all those guys. We'll see how Joey Jr. does his first game. Cliff Kingsbury is off as a game. And I think they put it at 4 o'clock and not just 1 o'clock because I feel like the NFL I feel like they have an importance to this game. They feel like this is an important game. This is Jayden Daniels' first game, first NFL game, his first start. Will be at Tampa Bay on the road at 4:25. Not 1 o'clock, but a 4:25 game. This might be America's game of the week. So we'll see how it goes with this one. But this should be a good game. It's going to be a fun game to watch for sure against Tampa Bay. It might be a high-scoring game. Tampa Bay, their secondary, they give up a lot of points and a lot of yards. So I do want to see how Jayden Daniels does in his first game for sure. All right. Let's see here. Second game of the season is against the New York Giants. Man, I'm just keeping it simple for the Giants games. We got to beat them at least once. We cannot keep getting swept. We know Jayden Daniels and Malik Neighbors had that, what was it, like a $10,000 bet. They called it off. But we can't keep losing to Daniel Jones, guys. We just can't. And this new regime, they need to put their foot down and have pride and dignity. We cannot keep getting whooped by Daniel Jones. That's one thing I want to see Dan Quinn and Joe Whitt Jr. set the tone with Jayden Daniels and change the culture that way. I'm tired of being swept by the Giants. I just can't. I'm tired. Tyrod Taylor, what's the guy's name? Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito, getting swept by these guys like that. It's just disrespectful. Daniel Jones too. And I can't even talk trash about Danny fumbles. I can't, because he beats us every time. It doesn't matter who they put out there at quarterback. We lose to the Giants. It could be their third string quarterback, and we will find a way to lose to the Giants. So that's one thing I want to see Jayden Daniels change. The Giants, they have a good deep. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau looks like a freaking Hall of Famer when he plays against us. So the Giants are going to be a tough task at home, 1 o'clock on Fox. So that should be a fun game. See how the turnout is. Of course, there's going to be a good amount of Giants fans there too, but, you know, we'll see how the stadium looks. And at Cincinnati on Monday Night Football, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, that's going to be a tough task too. That's going to be a fun game to watch too. That might be a high-scoring game as well, but that's going to be a tough task. We got some really good wide receivers we're going up against in the first couple games. The first 3 out of 4 games on the road, which is a disadvantage to us, but it is what it is on that. I think the last 4 out of 6 games of the season are at home, so you can look at it that way. It balances itself out just a little bit if you kind of look at it that way. But so, and then we play Arizona. At Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury, kind of a revenge game there, going back to Arizona, playing against Kyler Murray. So we'll see how they interact with each other. We saw them go back and forth on a Monday Night Football game a couple years ago where they're kind of yelling at each other, and Kyler Murray was like, relax and stuff like that. So we'll see if they shake hands and how they interact and different things. That will be intriguing for sure. But Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, they definitely upgraded their roster for sure. They tried their best to get weapons around Kyler Murray. So I mean, we'll see how we fare against them. I think that should be a good matchup right there. Marvin Harrison Jr., Zay Jones. Other than Marvin Harrison, I mean, the receivers are kind of mid, but James Conner's a good back. Zaven Collins a good pass rusher. They got Kaiser White, Sean Murphy Bunting. I think we should be able to move the football against them. Rapid fire. I'll make this quick. I don't want to make this like a 30-minute video. Versus Cleveland, Myles Garrett, Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb. They got a lot of talent over there in Cleveland. They got a lot of talent, man. They got a good team for sure. Another playoff team for sure. They probably will make the playoffs again. So this will be a tough task. I mean, we play the AFC East, which is a darn good division with the Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, and the Browns. So I mean, this is going to be a tough task. And blocking Myles Garrett, this will be a tough task for Brandon Coleman and Wiley and those guys. Whoever's going to be blocking Myles Garrett. Not only him, Zadarius Smith is a darn good pass rusher too. So our offensive line will be put to the task for sure. Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, good corners. JOK, the linebacker, as well. Jerry Jeudy is on the Browns too. I forgot about that. David Njoku. The Browns are talented. They're talented. They're legit. We got a challenging schedule for sure. Jameis Winston's the backup too. All right, let's move on to the next game. At Baltimore, Ravens, Battle of the Beltway. Lamar versus Jayden, similar play style, dual threat quarterbacks, elite speed, elite athleticism for both quarterbacks. So that should be a fun game to watch for sure. Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, King Henry. So they got a lot of talent, of course, in Baltimore. Another legitimate playoff team. Versus Carolina, this is the game that's like, okay, we got to win this game. Baltimore's 1 p.m. on CBS. Cleveland's 1 p.m. on Fox. Carolina 4:05 on CBS. This is like a game where we should be favored. We're going to be dogs against Baltimore. We're going to be dogs against Cleveland. We probably will be dogs against Arizona. We're going to be dogs at Cincinnati for sure. New York Giants is probably going to be favored by like 3.5, something like that. Tampa Bay, we're going to be dogs as well. So the first couple games, we're playing some playoff teams. Baltimore at Baltimore, like I said, and then Carolina at home. We should be favored. Bryce Young, they did their best to bring some talent in to help him out and get some receivers for him as well. But yeah, this is like the one game I'm looking at. Okay, I feel like this is a winnable game for sure. Adam Thielen's a receiver. They drafted Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. They got him. Tommy Tremble, the tight end. So they brought in some weapons. Jeremy Chin, revenge game for him somewhat. They did sign Jadeveon Clowney, the pass rusher, as well. So they you know, I feel like this is just a game where you circle and you know, everybody's circling us too, but it's a game where you circle is like, okay, you got to win this game. Then Chicago, another winnable game against Caleb Williams. This is at home. Caleb Williams come back to DC. Pick 1 versus pick 2. So this is a big matchup right here, 1 p.m. on CBS. Odd that it's on CBS, but this should be a fun game. Last year they smoked us with DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. God, like they just cooked us at home. So we got to get some revenge against those guys. And Emmanuel Forbes got to step up against DJ Moore for sure and play better for sure. But yeah, Caleb Williams coming back to the DMV. That should be fun to watch. Then we play the Giants again on November 3rd. No Thanksgiving game this year against the Cowboys like we usually do, and then no Christmas game as well. But at the Giants, November 3rd, 1 p.m. on Fox. I already talked about the Giants, man. We got to win one of those games. We cannot get swept. That it will be disrespectful again to get swept by those guys. Then Pittsburgh, November 10th at 1 p.m. again on CBS. Is going to be Justin Fields at that time. It's going to be Russell Wilson. Who's going to be quarterbacking at that time? George Pickens, of course, talented. Najee Harris. They got a good team. They always have a good defense as well with T.J. Watt as a pass rusher as well. So that should be a tough challenge. At Philly, we don't play Philly until week 11. We don't play Dallas until week 12. Like, we already played the Giants twice before we play Philly, before we play Dallas. So that is interesting, the way they placed the way they made the schedule on that. At Philly, our offensive coordinator, I guess, our quarterback's coach, I guess, somewhat of a revenge game. Olamide Zaccheaus played for the Eagles as well. And then, of course, when we play Dallas, you know, of course, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Kenny Emmanuel Forbes, once again, I keep talking about Emmanuel Forbes, but can he get some revenge against A.J. Brown and hold his own? Devontae Smith, and, of course, Saquon Barkley, we get to play against him for the first time with the Eagles. So that will be interesting for sure. And then against Dallas, Dan Quinn. Playing against Dallas, 1 p.m. on Fox, November 24th. I'm surprised that's not like a 4 o'clock game. We usually play Dallas at like 4 instead of like 1, or usually like a Thanksgiving or prime time. So it is interesting to see that we play Dallas at 1 o'clock. That game can be flexed too if we're still competitive, if we're still in the hunt and whatnot, and it's like a playoff. It has playoff implications. That game could be flexed to 4 p.m. or something like that. We'll see. But that's November 24th, of course. Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz. Who else? Dorrance, Dante Fowler, Noah Igbenogbe. There's so many guys. Jabril Cox, him too. He's still technically on the roster, but we didn't just sign him this year. Like I already said, Tyler Biadasz. And that's about it. That's all the guys I can remember. I'm probably forgetting some of the guys that are just the whole coaching staff. Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn. The defensive line, assistant coach, Shakir Floyd, whatever his name is, Sharif Floyd. So many guys that came over from Dallas for sure. Who else? And then we played Tennessee. That's a winnable game. That's one that I circle on the calendar. But once again, I won't sleep on them either. They are basically rebuilding to Will Levis as their starting quarterback. This is December 1st, 1 p.m. Let me look at Tennessee's roster too and like who they upgraded with to before I move on to the next game, because I just want to see their depth chart here. But just looking at the Titans, Will Levis will be their starter. Who is their running back? Tony Pollard is their running back now. Former Dallas Cowboy. Calvin Ridley is on the Titans now. DeAndre Hopkins. So they got some legitimate receivers with D-Hop and Calvin Ridley for sure. Tyler Boyd is a good number 3. Chiggy, the tight end, is pretty good. J.C. Latham, left tackle out of Alabama. Peter Skoronski, Lloyd Cushenberry as their center. And then defensively, they got Harold Landry III, Kenneth Murray Jr. at linebacker, Chidobe Awuzie, Monty Hooker, strong safety. L'Jarius Sneed, they traded for him they traded for L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs as well. So those are some of the big moves that they made. They were pretty active in the offseason for sure. Malik Willis is their third-string quarterback now. Treylon Burks is their backup wide receiver as well. So the Titans got talent. I'm not going to feel like they don't have talent. But that's a winnable game. Bye week 14, then December 15th at New Orleans against the Saints. So Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, they're another talented team as well. Going to New Orleans, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. Of course, we made the trade for Chris. We traded back when we could have got Chris Olave. You know, Sam Howell, Cole Turner, B-Rob. So everybody argues kind of how that turned out. Would you just take Chris Olave rather than getting Sam Howell, who's not on the roster anymore? Cole Turner, who barely plays. Jahan Dotson, who's a good number 2 receiver, and then Cole Turner. I already said Cole Turner barely plays. And then B-Rob, who's probably the best out of the pack. It's between B-Rob and Jahan, but I think B-Rob, honestly, has been more impactful consistently. But Jahan Dotson may have the higher ceiling. You can argue that too. But would you rather just take Chris Olave rather than just taking a group of those guys? So that's a good question right there. And then a wide receiver. They don't have much after Olave. Rashid Shaheed, who's solid. Cedric Wilson. And then they drafted Talise Fuaga. And they got Pete Werner at linebacker. Taysom Hill. Is he still on the roster? Taysom Hill at tight end on the depth chart. Spencer Rattler. They drafted Spencer Rattler. That is intriguing. That's intriguing. That I actually think Spencer Rattler is a good backup. I think it would be a good backup quarterback in this league. Tyrann Mathieu, Marshawn Lattimore. So that would be good to see him matched up against Terry McLaurin. That would be a fun matchup to watch as well. Then against Philly again, December 22nd at 1 p.m. And then Atlanta at home, Kirk Cousins coming back. Dan Quinn coached against Atlanta, so it's not Atlanta, so it's not much of a revenge game. But Kirk Cousins, of course, coming back to D.C. This is his second time coming back to D.C. You know, he came back to D.C. with the Vikings a couple years ago. We lost. We really should have won that game. It was very close. But we ended up losing that game. It was a very, very close game for the most part. Let's look at the Falcons' depth chart here. Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, we beat them last year. Drake London, good receiver. He had a good game against us last year. They got picked up Rondale Moore, Darnell Mooney. So they tried to get some talent. Kyle Pitts, of course, solid, really, really darn talented tight end. Who else they got on defense? AJ Terrell, their corners out of Jesse Bates. They picked up Jesse Bates in free agency at free safety. I don't see their secondary really stopping our guys. So I think Jaden Daniels should have a day against the Falcons, in my opinion. And then last game is at Dallas, week 18. So we'll see playoff implications against Dak and Micah Parsons, those guys, CeeDee Lamb. We'll see how they hold up against them. Another revenge game for Dan Quinn at Dallas. I feel like Dallas is kind of doing like a soft rebuild where they're prepared to lose this year. And then once they lose, I think they're going to blow it up and try to move on from Dak. I mean, that's what the grapevine has been saying. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think they're ready. And they're going to fire Mike McCarthy. When they lose in the first round this year or the second round, they're not going to make it past the second round. When they lose in the first or second round, they're going to fire Mike McCarthy for sure. You can book that 110% once that happens. And then I think they finally, I think this is the biggest chance that they may finally move on from Dak Prescott. So let's just look at the opponents right there. So like I said, we start off on the road, the first 3 out of the 4 games. The bye week is very late. No Thanksgiving games, no Christmas games, 2 primetime games. Jaden Daniels at Tampa, 425. Him versus Caleb Williams. That's a big game. Kirk Cousins coming back to D.C. You can't lose against the Giants. So that's just my summary and synopsis right there. Cliff Kingsbury going back to Arizona. Dan Quinn going back to Dallas. Jaden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson is going to be huge. Just similar quarterback style play. And, you know, if he can be similar to Lamar Jackson, I would love that and be happy with that for sure. So, yeah, that just sums up the schedule for me. Like I said, I'm not going to do a schedule prediction or anything like that, but maybe tomorrow night with the Elite channel member stream, if you guys tune in, all my guys, DC Bay, Oscar Josue Montel, On the Warpath, my guy Brandon, my guy Kenny, who just had a birthday as well. So all my guys, we should be back tomorrow night talking about the schedule around 8 o'clock, 8:15. So trying to think if there's anything else that I left out on the schedule. But like I said, you just can't lose to the Giants, guys. You cannot be swept by the Giants again. And that's about it. You look at the primetime games for the other teams. Dallas got 6. The Jets got 6. San Fran got 6. Kansas City got 5. Houston got 4. The Giants got 3, which I think may be a little too much because they're just terrible. We got 2. Vegas got 2. The Vikings got 2. Denver got 2. Jacksonville got 2. So if you look at those teams, Denver, they have a young quarterback that they're developing. Minnesota, another young guy, another quarterback situation where they're trying to find a guy. Vegas, they're trying to find a guy. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I'm surprised they only got 2 primetime games. Indiana got 1. Carolina Panthers, they got 0 primetime games. That's hilarious. 0 primetime games. But the Jets, I'm not surprised with Aaron Rodgers. San Fran, they just went to the Super Bowl. And then Dallas, they're always going to be put on primetime all the time. Kansas City with 5, who just won the Super Bowl. So that is odd that they won the Super Bowl and then other teams had more primetime games than them. So it is what it is on that. But we got 2. which is like third worst in the league. But hey, I'm not really pressed about primetime games. All right, you guys let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to comment below win-loss record, you can. But personally, I'm not going to do it. All right, you guys, hello, Commanders. Peace.